ちょっと始まる前だけ日本語でやりますけれども、一つはですね、見て分かるようにビデオカメラが入ってます。で、教材用に撮影して、研究教育用に使ったり、それから大学の公式サイトで公開する可能性があります。で、基本的には講師の人の話してるのを撮りますので、皆さんの方は入らないはずなんですけれども、後で公開する前にはもう一度確認を取りますので、もし特定のセッションであそこは公開してくれるなっていうようなことがあれば言ってください。We will videotaping all the sessions and we will use it for research and educational purposes. But if you have a particular section you don't want to show public, you can tell me later on. But basically, we'll videotape all the sessions and maybe use for research and educational purposes. Okay, thank you. And also, sometimes we want to take sort of PR photos.
Right.
Okay. それからあといくつかちょっと最初にだけ。これは学生を認定科目という形で、旧大の学部生の、人は単位になります。でといったのはその一部旧大生以外も、受講、参加しますので、しておいてください。それから、for international program student at Kyushu University, you will get a special credit, I believe, but it's in a different category, I believe. そしてシラバスは最初のものが、このポータルに出ていて、それからその後詳しいものとか、それから資料とかを、Moodle の方に、置いていますので、もしまだ Moodle にアクセスしてない人があったら、見ておいてください。すごい量の資料がありますけれども、使い方等は説明します。The initial syllabus is in the portal site of the university, and then we have a bunch of stuff in the Moodle, research packet including hundreds of pages of articles, and also briefs, sort of the selected information which may be used to support the argument in the debate, and the instructors will explain this. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Narahiko Inoue. I'm coordinating this course and taking care of the entire program, but we will have two professors from Illinois State University, United States, to basically teach course. And also we will have a few more people to help us judge the debate later on. And this course is the part of the English language courses. You can use it for graduation purposes to fulfill the foreign language requirement, a 2-credit course. If you complete the course, that means participate free in the sessions, prepare arguments, write speeches, and participate in the debates, practice debates or mini tournaments scheduled at the end of the program. That's Saturday. And we have about 15 4-credit students. In addition, first 3 days, we have auditors, those who want to take this course for preparing for their study abroad program. They will not participate in the final debates. And, well, without further ado, I would like to introduce two instructors from Illinois State. First, Professor Joseph Zompetti. He has been here a number of times and also teaching debate and argumentation around the world. And we would learn from him. And also Ms. Shanna Carlson. she is currently director of the debate and also the instructor of critical thinking in the Illinois State. And both of you are very experienced in teaching and coaching debate. So we really hope the fruitful course. Before getting into the first session, do you have any questions? 何か質問とか、受講前に。Okay, then I'd like to ask Joe.
Thank you. Konnichiwa. It's very, very nice to be here. It's a great honor for both Shanna and myself. I'll talk a little bit about myself in just a moment, but before I do that, I want to get something straight right from the beginning. I want to lay a foundation for the next couple days. And that is, please ask questions whenever. Like this one. Okay, that's fine. Feel free to interrupt me if you don't understand something, if you need me to rephrase something, if you need me to slow down, speed up, more examples, whatever that you need, please let me know. I am here for you, okay? And I am not like a typical Japanese professor, obviously. But the way I teach in the United States is generally we sit in a big circle and all of us talk. We discuss concepts. Now, this is a little bit different because you will be learning something that, for most of you, is relatively new, maybe brand new. You may never have heard of debate or argumentation before. Or if you have, you haven't studied it with much detail. And so there will be quite a bit of lecture, unfortunately. Okay? But we are also going to have some exercises so that we will break up the lecture so it's not too monotonous or too dull or boring. And I know that right now is a tough time because you all just ate lunch, right? So you're a little sleepy. So I will do my best to keep you energized and excited, all right? Now, don't expect me to do any cartwheels or somersaults or jumping up and down, but I will try to keep your attention the best I can, all right? Now, having said that, so again, please, please, please feel free to ask me questions at any point. All right, so let me just tell you a little bit about myself, not because I'm trying to brag or trying to inflate myself, but rather just so that you know that hopefully you'll believe me when I talk about these concepts, and that you'll trust that we know a little bit about what we're doing in the next couple of days. So my name is Dr. Joseph Zompetti, but that may be difficult for some of you, just like your names will be difficult for me. So you may just call me Joe. That should be easy, right? Joe. Or Z. You may call me that. My grad students called me Z. So just as long as it's not a bad word, you can call me anything. Okay? But yes, I have traveled to 56 countries, and about 25 of those I have taught critical thinking, argumentation, or debate. Most of them have been in Europe, but this is my 9th visit to Japan. Not to Kyushu, but overall my 9th trip to Japan. So I have traveled quite a bit, and I will do my best to help you learn some of these important concepts. I've written a couple of books on this subject. If you're interested, Professor Inoue has them in his office. And I taught a course just this last summer here on advanced argumentation. And hopefully I will be turning that into a book as well soon. So this has been kind of my life. When I was in high school, I debated. When I was in college, I debated. When I was in my master's program, I coached debate. When I was in my PhD program, I coached debate. And then I was at a university after that for 5 years, and I coached debate. And then I went to Illinois State University, and I coached debate until 2005. And and I decided enough of coaching. I need to do more academic scholarly things. So that is my biography, if you will. Okay, so a lot of debate. And as you will notice in the next couple of days, beginning this afternoon when Shanna talks about how to do research, you'll I think appreciate how much time and energy goes into learning about a particular topic. So if you think about all of the years I debated, all the years I coached on both high school and college topics, that means I have a lot of really trivial information in my head. Just random things in my head. Like, did you know that there's a spotted green toad in Tanzania, Africa, that is on the endangered species list? Did you know that? Yeah, I wrote an affirmative case on that once. It's kind of crazy, right? Not your average person knows about little toads in Africa. But in any case, that's one of the, I think, unique benefits that debate brings to us. It allows us to learn in a way that you don't normally learn in your classrooms, or any clubs that you may join, or any organizations that you may belong to. Debate is a unique activity that allows you to not only learn information, but then to use that information in a way that will help you retain it and remember it and use it, and you will be much more intelligent than all of your friends, and you'll be able to use some of that information, right, as you go on in life. Some of it, like the little green toads in Tanzania, aren't going to be all that helpful to you. But debate is a wonderful way of learning about really interesting things. And we don't always get that option or opportunity, right? So what I'm here to talk to you until, 2:30, I think, is what is debate? What is this thing called debate? And why do we do it? And I'll talk a little bit about what debate involves towards the end, okay? But the first question is, what is this thing called debate? It's sort of like defining poetry. You know, you kind of know it when you see it, but it's hard to put into words. Does anybody have any idea? Like when someone says the word debate to you, what do you think of? What comes to your mind? Anyone? Yes. First of all, what's your name?
My name is Tommy.
Tommy. Okay, Tommy. What do you think?
You argue.
You argue. Okay. Debate involves arguing. Good. Absolutely, it does. Who else? Don't be shy, because in the next couple of days, you all will be talking. So you might as well just get started now. So what else? I'm sorry, there was another hand. Yes, your name?
Andrew.
Andrew.
Fighting.
Fighting. Okay, some people think of that. Sure. All right. That's good. Your name?
Daiki.
Daiki?
Yeah, we have many problems in the world, so if we debate, it will usually lead to good result.
Okay, yeah, hopefully, right, yeah. Hopefully we'll get a good result. How about one of the ladies over here? Huh? Someone says, let's debate. What do you think? Comes to mind. Okay, yeah, excellent. Yeah, competing, getting information about a topic. And what is your name? Lisa? Lisako. Okay, thank you. All right, so we have competing. And we have arguing. And we have fighting. And we have decision making or solving. Right? Excellent start. Excellent start. Okay? So this is when we think of the word debate. Right? Now, if we think of the word argue, because as we know, debating does involve arguing, right? When we think of the word argue, what do we think that means? Your name?
My name is Aish.
Irish?
Aish.
Aish, okay.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I think for me, arguing is about telling strengthening it, and also trying to, how to say, weaken the opponent's points. And yeah.
Okay. Good. What else? I am going to trip on this. I know I am. What else? Yes. Your first name? Takashi.
I think when people argue, there should be some purpose, like protecting national interest.
Okay. So probably I'm going to rephrase that just a little bit because what you've just identified, what you just said is excellent. It really is going to help me get to the next part of what I'm talking about. And that is what we call an issue or a point of controversy. All right? In other words, if there's not some kind of controversy, if there's not something for which we disagree, then we're not going to argue about it, right? If we're all in agreement, right? If we're all in agreement that curry is awesome, then there's no discussion to be had, right? We're all just going to have curry for dinner. But some of you may not like curry. Might be a little too spicy, or you prefer something else, right? We're not all in agreement about the awesomeness of curry, right? Is that fair to say? Yeah? Okay, so what does that mean? That means if I say, hey, we're all going to have curry for dinner, some of you are going to say, oh no, Joe, let's not do that. My stomach can't handle that. No, I don't want that. Okay? Then we can have a discussion about whether or not we're going to have curry for dinner or not. Right? That's an issue that we have about a topic of controversy. Right? So that is a guiding or a driving force for us to have this arguing or this discussion, right, about that particular topic. All right? So that's good. Anything else? When you think of argue, what comes to mind? Yes?
Story.
Story. Oh, that's
Why
good.
we argue this point or why we deny the point.
Okay, good. And your name?
Sakiba.
Saki. Story. This is actually a very good point. We unfortunately are not going to talk much about stories. We'll talk a little bit about stories when we talk about refutation and rebuttals, which I think is on Thursday. But unfortunately, stories don't get enough attention in arguing and debating as I think that they should. And the reason is this. Debate and argument comes from a long Western tradition, primarily Western. Certainly there were arguments and debating all over the world. But the documentation that we have that's kind of existed over time begins in ancient Greece. And since then with ancient Rome, and then the trading with countries from the East, and the development of the Enlightenment period, and then so on and so forth, debate has always kind of privileged or emphasized logic, right? A linear idea of how to make sense of things. But we're not purely logical animals, are we? In fact, we're often persuaded by emotional appeals or by credibility, right? I come in here, I tell you that I've written all these books and I've done all these trainings. That gives me a sense of credibility. Hopefully, I am credible enough to you that you will believe me, and then that acts as a form of persuasion, right? Well, stories often encompass or often involve all of those elements, but because of the way debate has developed over the centuries, it hasn't been emphasized as much. But still, nevertheless, a very important quality. So thank you for bringing that up. So what we have here is, and I'm actually surprised, you said fighting for debate, but most people will say fighting here. If you say, I'm having an argument with my significant other, or I'm having an argument with my parents, that usually means what?
Quarrel.
Yeah, quarrel. Yes, absolutely. You were bickering. Usually the voices get raised, and there not a whole lot of reasons are being said, right? It's usually, you will do this or else, or I don't like this, that kind of thing. So lots of opinions get thrown around. So when we think of the word argument, unfortunately, in our everyday speaking, our everyday parlance, the word argument tends to have a negative connotation. It tends to be seen or looked upon as something that is bad. We try to avoid arguments, don't we? Most of us. I don't. I love to argue, so I'll just pick an argument with someone, because I enjoy that. But most people don't do that. Most people avoid arguments because they don't want to have conflict. They don't want to have confrontation. They don't want to have quarreling, right? The problem, though, is that's not all argument is. Argument can be that, right? But argument can also be reason-centered. It can be done in a very civil way, a polite way, right? And we can have a nice, healthy, meaningful conversation that involves arguments, but isn't the arguing of quarrel, right? And that's what debate is. Debate is a structured format that utilizes arguments to strengthen one's points or weaken the opposition's points, as Kyushu was saying. Okay? So that's what debate does for us. So debate is a structured format that uses argument. There are quite a number of different types of debate formats around the world. In fact, after this workshop, we're doing another workshop, and it's a different style, different format of debate. Okay? Some people around the world say that one version of debate is better than another. Some versions of debate are not that good. But we're not going to get into all the different formats in the next couple of days. We're only going to focus on one particular type of debate in the next couple of days, called policy debate. And I'll explain what that means in just a moment. But some of the other formats emphasize values, not policy. Some emphasize different ways of communicating about policies and values. Some formats have both policy and values. Some have three-person teams. Some have two-person teams. Some formats just have one person against one person. So there's a variety of different formats. Now, there's something that I want to ask all of you, other than what we've already mentioned. Why should we debate? We know that we gain information. We know that hopefully it'll help us make good, solid decisions and solve some problems. Right? We know that, but why else should we debate? Yes?
To persuade one another.
Excellent. Persuasion. Okay, good. Why is knowing about persuasion important? I mean, let's face it, right? I mean, I could teach you, and I have taught people, all of the dirty tricks to persuasion. You know? How to be a con artist, how to swindle people's money, how to dupe or take advantage of individuals because they lack knowledge or they lack the knowledge of how persuasion operates. Propaganda is a form of persuasion, right? So, Adolf Hitler used propaganda, right, for very nefarious or evil means. So, we could do that, right? We could talk about persuasion for those reasons, but is that really beneficial for us? No, not if you have an ethical, an ethical heart. You wouldn't want to use those tools. But what about learning those tools so that we can avoid being swindled and conned and duped. Right? That makes sense. You know, how many of you ever had a class that says how to avoid losing all of your money from a con artist? No, we don't get taught that stuff, do we? But you can learn the skills of debate and argumentation to help you raise your awareness of the different types of strategies that marketers use, public relations people use, your parents use, your teachers use, right? The government uses, politicians, etc. All the different strategies that folks use, that people use, that aren't necessarily ethical, that aren't necessarily good. Okay? And then you'll learn how to defend yourself as a result. Okay? So yes, persuasion is extremely important. Why else should we learn about debate? Yes, first name. Talahiro.
To get skills to think something logically.
Yes, absolutely. We call that critical thinking skills. And, I really don't understand this. Critical thinking. Excellent. So let me ask you all a question. Is there a topic in your society, and I know that not all of you are Japanese, so it could be, from wherever you're from. Is there a topic, an issue in your society that you feel passionately about? Maybe you oppose the death penalty, or maybe you don't like nuclear power, or maybe you think women should have the right to have an abortion. Maybe you think that certain religions should be protected, or certain ethnic groups should be protected in a certain country. Do all of you have something in mind that you feel strongly about from back home? This is the point where there's participation. Okay, so nodding would be okay. Or how about this? Is there anyone in here who cannot think of an issue? Okay, so you all have an issue in mind, right? Okay. Let me pick on someone. You, sir, with the glasses there. Yes, you. What's your name?
Scott.
Scott. Okay, Scott. What is your issue
My issue
that you feel strongly about?
in this test.
What is it?
My issue is Yakuza.
Yakuza. Okay. Yakuza. Yakuza good, right?
I think.
Yeah? Okay. Yakuza good. All right, so no, you probably feel strongly that the Yakuza are bad. Is that correct? I'm just guessing. Just going out on a limb on this one. And probably think that we should do more to reduce Yakuza. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. And is that because the Yakuza is bad for society?
Yeah.
Yeah? Like why? Why are they bad for society?
They earn money with not illegal way.
Okay, so they're criminals. Maybe they kill people. Maybe they increase drugs in society or something, right? Sex trafficking, perhaps. Okay, so Yakuza, right? For those of you, everyone probably knows who Yakuza, right? Now, Scott, what if you and I debate against each other, okay? And I am going to take the position that the Yakuza are bad for society. They're bad for society because they're criminals, they break the law, that erodes the rule of law in our country, they bring in drugs and sex trafficking, they kill people, and all these bad things, okay? Now, you are going to debate me. Now remember, debating is a point of controversy. If you agree with me, we're not going to have an argument, are we? We're not going to have a debate if you agree with me. So, can you come up with reasons why we should not reduce the Yakuza? Why the Yakuza might be good for society?
Yakuza.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, right, I mean, The whole point of having prisons and police is to catch criminals. So we need criminals for police and prisons. Yeah, that's an argument. Not particularly strong argument, but it's an argument, right? That's good. But it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult for you to think about what you believe so passionately in and think about the opposing side, right? How would you defend that the Yakuza are good? Now, keep in mind, in a competitive debate format, which is what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of days, you have to try to convince your judge that your position is correct, that your position is right. So it's not just about coming up and saying, well, the Yakuza are okay because, that helps our police and our prison systems, because they're criminals. No. Yes, that's an argument. But that's not what debating is really all about. Debating is about persuasion. Debating is trying to convince your audience that you are correct and that your points, as Aisha was saying, that your points are strong and your opposition's arguments are weak. It's about saying the Yakuza are necessary for society because there are troubled youth in Japan. They don't have a strong family network, and the Yakuza are an alternative to foster programs and to having a life without any kind of a family. And the Yakuza help support those individuals so that they can grow and mature. We may not like their activities, but the fundamental philosophy of the Yakuza is to protect one's own. The family comes first. And is that really any different than your own families? Your parents take care of you, right? You take care of your grandparents. Well, for those who don't have families, that's where the Yakuza come. And so you need to try to, act like you believe what it is you're saying. Even though, Scott, deep down inside, you still think the Yakuza are bad, right? But that's a long explanation and a long example for this idea of critical thinking. Critical thinking means that we don't take things on face value. Okay? Critical thinking is that just because Donald Trump says something, we don't automatically believe it. This is why my job is so important in the U.S. Critical thinking is to think about a point or an issue or a topic from multiple perspectives. Usually, good, bad, right, wrong, those kinds of things. But it's trying to look at a particular issue from a variety of different perspectives, looking at information that supports those multiple points of view, and then coming up with a reasonably informed decision as a result of that. In our society, all over the world, doesn't matter where you're from, things are fast. You get information on your phones. You get headlines on your phones. Most of us don't click on the links. We don't read the articles. Some of us who do click on those links on Facebook or our Twitter accounts, a lot of times, we now know, those messages are fabricated, right? They're false. But if we don't think about it, or if we don't check another source, or if we don't read the full article and wonder why it's saying what it's saying, we're automatically going to believe it, aren't we? This is not a new phenomenon. This is not new. It just happens, I think, to be a little worse right now because our society is so technologically driven and our time is so valuable to us, right? We don't want to spend time reading 2 or 3 books on a topic before we make a decision, right? Much less a couple different articles. We want to know right now, right? Should we go to curry tonight or should we go have sushi, right? We don't want to waste time talking about it. The problem is that we easily fall into the trap of, as we were talking about before with persuasion, of easily getting duped or easily getting persuaded about things that are not good for us. Or some other alternative might be better. Critical thinking is a skill that allows you to examine a wide variety of different information sources, think about arguments in a whole completely different way than what you're used to, so that you can come up with a more critically informed decision. There is, without a doubt, no other activity on the planet that teaches you critical thinking skills more efficiently or better than debate. You can learn some critical thinking skills in other classes, but debate accelerates it. And it teaches you how to use critical thinking in ways that you don't even realize you're doing it. And it is a lifelong skill. You will use it for the rest of your life. And you can't put a price on that. I can't tell you how many students I have had who have used the skills they learned in debate, and it has radically transformed their lives. Saved them from buying a house that the mortgage rate was not good, because they learned in debate to not take things on face value. Just because a real estate agent comes up to you and says, I'm going to get you a good deal on this house. Trust me, I sell lots of houses. This one's a good deal. You're not going to find a better one. You really, and I'll tell you what, if you don't get it, somebody else will. So you should sign right now. We hear about that kind of stuff all the time, right? Well, I have one student in particular who went to a real estate agent. Same kind of thing happened. And my student read the fine print, and it was a variable interest rate, not a fixed interest rate. Well, the Great Recession of the United States that rippled around the world was based upon those kind of mortgages. Because what happens when interest rates go up? Your mortgage goes up in a variable interest rate mortgage, right? So if you are making the same amount of money next month as you're making this month, but next month your mortgage is 100 times higher, or 50% higher, right? You can't afford it. And this is a great myth, right? People that are in the so-called middle class all over the world, we're just like 2 or 3 paychecks away from being homeless. Your parents are probably like this. Because if you miss paying the bank 1 month on your mortgage, you're going to get a really bad letter that says you need to pay. And with penalties, right? 2 months, you're really pushing your luck. 3 months, they kick you out, right? Some are even faster than that. And so if you have a variable mortgage interest rate and you sign that form, you're really risking a lot, aren't you? Debate helps you in everyday life, and that's just one example, right? Of how you don't take things on face value, you look at multiple sources, you read things carefully, and then you come up with a critically informed decision. All right? So there are lots of values and benefits to debate. So when I ask, why do we do debate? Well, we do debate because it has all these benefits. But there's one other benefit that I want to point out that often gets overlooked. And some of you with that post-lunch haze, the sleepiness, I want to show you and tell you that debate is also fun. It's fun. Some of you are shy, right? Some of you are a little shy. You don't like to talk that much. You probably don't want to speak in front of all these people. That's okay. But guess what? All of you are going to go into a career at some point where you're going to have to speak in front of people. Right here, right now, we're friends. We're just like a big family right here. No one's going to make fun of you. No one's going to harass you. No one's going to tease. Well, I might tease you a little bit, but not about your speaking. But, this is a safe place to learn how to speak. Would you rather get up in front of this room where there are people here who care about you, who are here to help you, and practice speaking? Or do you want to walk in the first week of your brand new job and have to give a report to management? That should not be your introduction to speaking in front of people, right? You should have practice. And debate allows you to do that as well, okay? It gives you those communication skills, and we can have fun while doing it, right? I mean, debate is a competitive activity. There are winners and losers. At this point, as you're just starting out, we're not going to worry so much about winning and losing because we're all beginners, okay? But as you get involved with it, if you choose to continue to do debate, it's a competitive activity, okay? And you can find a sense of joy and happiness in finding that one particular argument that your opponent just did not have an answer to, that you can persuade a judge to vote for you. And it's a really satisfying feeling when a judge says, hey, I'm going to vote for you because your arguments persuaded me. You know, that's pretty powerful. And one other thing before I move on. Some of you may come from some background where you are not encouraged to speak up, to share your opinion. You may not be asked to say, well, hey, what do you think about Abe's visit to Trump? You know, where they play golf and stuff, right? What do you think about the role of women in Japanese society? What do you think about how students are treated in Japan? You know, how do you feel about the decisions your family makes when they don't consult you or ask you your opinion? Some of you come from backgrounds where you rarely get a chance to speak out. In debate, you have a set time limit for each one of your speeches. Constructive speeches are 6, is that correct? 6 minutes? So each one of you will have a 6-minute speech, and then you'll have a 3-minute rebuttal. 4-minute rebuttal. So that's a total of 10 minutes of speaking time. Plus there's some other things going on in debate too. But a total of 10 minutes where you are up here saying what's on your mind, what you think is important, and everyone else has to listen. Everyone else has to listen. For 10 minutes, you finally get a chance to give yourself a voice. And we don't have that opportunity very much, do we? Particularly as students. So debate is a very unique activity that I hope that you will enjoy, and I hope that you will use, and that you will learn from it, and that it will benefit you. Okay? So, let's move on. So that is, what is debate? And why do we debate? As I mentioned, there are several different types of debate. Our form of debate that we'll be talking about is called policy debate. Policy debate. There's also value debate. And there's facts. Okay? So, we can have a debate about policy. In other words, a policy is that someone or some entity should do something. It's usually a government. So usually the topic is a government should do some kind of action. All right? And so the affirmative side supports that. We say, yes, the government should do X, Y, or Z. And then the negative, the opposition, will say, no, we don't think the government should do this, or maybe things right now are okay, or maybe your idea of what the government should do is really bad, or there are a number of different things the negative can say, which we'll talk about later. Okay? But that's what policy debate is about. Okay? Some person or entity does a plan of action, and we debate about the merits of that action. The second type of debate is called value debate. All right? So values. We don't all share the same values. Right? So, for example, in American culture, there's a value placed on individualism. Right? Protect the individual. Individual has certain rights, and so on and so forth. In many Asian countries, the idea is more of a collectivist value system, where the group or the family or the society should be seen as more important than a particular individual. So those are two competing value systems, right? Individualism versus collectivism. There obviously can be overlap. Individualism and collectivism can coexist, but there are times when they butt heads, right? And they come in conflict. So we could have a debate about individualism versus collectivism, for example, right? And that would be an example of value debate. Okay? Another example might be the death penalty is immoral. Okay? Well, some people might not think it's immoral. If you're saving more lives than not, or if someone's a criminal and they have broken the laws, then it might seem as some people might argue that that's a morally justifiable punishment, right? But some people may say, no, 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 the taking of any life is immoral. So you have this debate, right, about the value of life when discussing the death penalty. So that could be an example of a value debate. Now, it gets a little, it can be a little confusing when I say, let's debate about how the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty. Is that a value topic or a policy topic? The Japanese government should abolish the death penalty.
Policy.
Yes, policy. And why?
Mainly because if implemented, it would affect the citizens as such under the Japanese government.
Well, sure, that's true. But it's a policy topic because it has the government doing a course of action. Now, that means that in a policy debate, where we debate the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty, there can be value-based arguments within that debate. But the topic itself is a policy topic. Okay? Just as we will obviously have arguments of fact in any kind of debate, but a fact topic is one that says that something is a fact or not. So for example, I could say, the earth is flat. The earth is flat. That is a fact topic, because the earth is either flat or it's not, right? And so we could have a debate about whether the earth is flat or not. Does that sound exciting? For those of you who have computers, you can type in, I think it's Earth Flatters Society.
Flat Earth.
FlatEarthSociety.com. FlatEarthSociety.com. There are thousands of people around the world who still make the argument that the Earth is flat. So we could have that debate. You know? There are obviously people out there that think that climate change isn't happening. We have a president like that. Yeah, so that's a debate of fact. But we're going to be focusing on policy. Okay? Now, policy debate involves, as I said, a person or a group or entity, generally a government, doing some course of action, okay, around an issue of controversy. So we might say, a topic might be, the Japanese government should use taxes for the benefit of society. Well, that's not really an issue of controversy, is it? I mean, that is, after all, the foundation or the basis for taxes in the first place. However, if we change the topic to say the Japanese government should use taxes to provide homes for all homeless people in Japan, that could be an issue of controversy. Some people might disagree with that, right? And if there's disagreement, then we can have a debate, right? That's an issue of controversy. That's also known as clash. So, issues of controversy involve clash. What is clash? Clash is when we have a point of disagreement. Okay? That point at which there is disagreement. So if you make an argument, like let's say, the Earth is not flat because we have pictures from space that prove that it's not flat, I have to respond to that. Right? Because if I don't respond to that, then I'm agreeing to it. And if I'm agreeing that pictures from space proves that the Earth is not flat, then we don't have any controversy, do we? If we're in agreement, then we're in agreement. But in a debate, we have to have clash. We have to have controversy. So I have to respond to that argument. And so I might say, all of those photographs of the planet are fabricated. They're all made up. You know, I'm not just going to take some scientist's word for it. Until I am in outer space and I can look at the Earth, until that happens, I'm not going to believe any of that stuff. Okay? So that would be a response to that. That would be clash, right? Now, that may not be very persuasive, but it's still a point of clash. Okay? The reason why I want to emphasize this particular concept is because so often in debate, even advanced debates, teams or debaters forget that they have to have clash. And it makes it very, very difficult for an audience or for judges to make up their mind about who wins or loses if there's no clash. Because if there's no clash, then why have a debate? Right? So your job is to have clash. So that's what we call a burden. I don't know how many of you know anything about the law or the legal system, but if you go to court and let's say you want to bring a lawsuit to Toyota because they made a faulty car. The court is going to say, I'm not just going to take your word for it, right? You can't just come to, if I'm the judge, you can't just come to court and say, you know, I think Toyota should pay me a bunch of money because their car was crappy, right? You're going to have to prove that the car was crappy. And you're going to have to prove that it was Toyota's fault that it was messed up, right? Because you could have messed up the car. So you got to prove that they're at fault. So if you are the affirmative in a policy debate, and you are advocating that the government does something, in other words, you're advocating change. Okay? The affirmative advocates that change should happen. The current system, like things that are going on right now, is what we call the status quo. Which is Latin for that which exists. So the current system, that which is currently happening, the status quo, is something that you want to change if you are the affirmative. Okay? So you have to, pretend you're going in front of a judge in a court of law. If you want there to be change from the current system, from the status quo, you're going to have to demonstrate a couple of things. Just like you'd have to demonstrate that Toyota was at fault and that the car was, in a bad condition and so forth, right? So in policy debate, there's what we call the burden of proof. The burden of proof. And the burden of proof, and I'm going to abbreviate that BOP, the burden of proof also relates to another concept in debate, which we're going to talk about. But for right now, I'm just going to put the term up here so that you can kind of footnote it in your head, and then we'll refer back to it later. But it relates to what's also known as stock issues. But the burden of proof is this when you're the affirmative. Okay? The first is what we call the blame, also known as inherency. And here, you must demonstrate that someone is at fault for whatever the issue of controversy is. So, for example, if the topic is the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty, then who is responsible for having the death penalty in Japan? The government, right? The legal system in Japan. So, the affirmative should say, well, currently, the Japanese government has a death penalty as a legal form of punishment, and we think that that's bad. Okay? So you establish blame. Just like you would have to go in and say, Toyota manufactured this car in a faulty way. Okay? So you have to determine who is to blame. Then you have to demonstrate that there is some sort of harm. Okay? So, for example, if, let's say, the death penalty is on the books in Japan, but there's only been one person who has been executed in the past 20 years. There's one person in 20 years. Is that really worth changing if the death penalty can also serve as a deterrent for really bad crimes? Right? Maybe the benefits to the death penalty outweigh or are more important than that one single executed individual in the past 20 years. Right? That's not much of a harm, is it? Those little green toads in Tanzania, if they all die out, it's not that big of a deal. Most people don't even know they exist. Right? So you have to demonstrate that this is a problem of some kind. Okay? Related to harm, but by most argumentation scholars and old-time debate coaches, there's a separate element of the burden of proof called significance. Significance. And this means that not only is there a harm, but it's a significant harm. Okay, so in other words, yes, it's bad that the Japanese government executes people, but not only do they execute people, but they've also executed, 200 in the last month. Okay, that would be pretty significant, right? I don't think that's happened. I'm just making that up, but you get my point, right? Is this making sense so far to everyone? So if you're the affirmative, advocating the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty, there are certain things you have to prove. Okay, it's called the burden of proof. There's a couple more. All right. The next one is called solvency. Solvency. Here, you have to demonstrate that whatever course of action you are advocating, that you want the Japanese government to do, you have to argue that the policy that you're arguing for will solve for these harms. Now, in our example, this is simple. This is easy, right? If you abolish the death penalty, ergo, no more executions, right? But let's take something that's a little more complex. Let's say you are advocating a policy that the Japanese government should increase regulations on nuclear power plants, because we know that some nuclear power plants are prone to meltdowns and leaks and so forth. Okay? That sounds good in theory, but will increased regulations really solve for the risks of meltdowns and leaks? As an affirmative, you're going to have to prove that those regulations would do that they would actually take care of or solve those meltdowns and leaks. Okay? That's a little bit more challenging than the death penalty example. But does that make sense? If it does not make sense, raise your hand. Okay. One final element to the burden of proof, which is something we will not spend much time on, but you nevertheless need to know about it. And this is called topicality. Topicality. This just means that your affirmative proposal has to be topical. Okay? So if the resolution says the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty, you should advocate abolishing the death penalty. Right? You should not advocate saving little green toads in Tanzania. Okay? That's pretty simple. And if you think about it, all of these concepts are just like the concepts in a court of law. So if you go to a civil court, actually I know nothing about the Japanese legal system. I'm assuming you have civil and criminal courts. Is that true, Narihiko? Yes? Okay. So let's say someone punches you in the face. See, like me? I got into a fight with a Trump supporter back home. I'm kidding, that's not that. But let's say someone punches you in the face, okay? And you lose a day's worth of work. You have to take a day off from work, okay? Now, it could be criminal if you go to the police and file charges or whatever, but it could also be civil. It could be civil damages. And so you would have to make the case about which one, is more important to you. So if you're saying that assault, which is a crime in Japan, this person hit you in the face, that's an act of assault, that's a crime, but you go to civil court suing for damages because you missed a day's worth of work, the judge is going to dismiss it. Right? The judge is going to say, no, this is a civil court, but you're talking about criminal actions. If you want to talk about criminal actions, you need to go to the criminal court. Talk to the police and the prosecutor. And so it's in what we would call the wrong jurisdiction. Okay? So topicality comes from this legal concept of if you're going to be arguing something, it needs to be within the realm, within the jurisdiction of whatever the topic is. And just like in the legal system, the reason why this is important in debate is for fairness. Right? Like, let's say you and I have a fundamental disagreement about the death penalty. Okay? I think the death penalty is great. You think it's bad. Okay? So we're going to debate about this topic, right, that the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty. So we get our materials together. Professor, in a way, says, okay, it's time to begin. And then, instead of you arguing that the government should abolish the death penalty, you say, the Japanese government should protect little green frogs in Tanzania. How am I supposed to debate against that? I might agree with that, right? And it's certainly not what I prepared for. So it's only fair that we agree on what the resolution is, so i.e. the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty, and then we have arguments about the issue of controversy surrounding the death penalty. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so the affirmative, in their very first speech, has to demonstrate these issues. Topicality, not so much. We're not really going to, as I said, we're not really going to address that in the next couple of days. But the first affirmative must show that someone or something or some law is to blame, that there is a harm that is significant, and that their proposal somehow solves for it. Okay? So those are the stock issues as well. And I know Shanna's going to talk more about stock issues. We're going to talk more about stock issues tomorrow as well. But the burden of proof requires that each one of these be made in that first affirmative speech. But they're also known as stock issues. Okay? Stock issue just simply means it's a critical issue. It's a critical point. It's a critical point that the affirmative must have here. Now, if you are the negative, if you're the opposing side, you kind of have an advantage here, right? Because you already know that the affirmative has to make these arguments. So when you're preparing, you already know where to begin. You know that you can attack who's at fault. You can attack the harm, and maybe it's not significant. You can attack whatever the policies are, don't really solve the harms. Right? So the negative also debates about stock issues, just from the other side of the equation. Okay? So both teams are going to be talking about stock issues, but the affirmative has the burden to address them from the very beginning, that they meet them. Okay? So then what is the negative's burden? Because it would be unfair if the affirmative had a burden and the negative not, right? The negative's burden is to respond to and attack the affirmative's arguments. Okay? again, we need clash. Essentially, the negative burden is you must have clash. Because if you just get up and say, oh, well, you know, affirmative's got some good ideas, kind of like them, then there's no clash, right? Affirmative wins, you lose, you wasted everybody's time. Okay? So the negative has to provide clash. And those elements of clash generally involve the stock issues. There is one other element that we'll talk about more later that the negative can introduce, called a disadvantage. And a disadvantage simply means that not only will the affirmative probably not solve the harms, but the affirmative proposal is actually really bad. It's disadvantageous. There's a negative consequence to doing their proposal. Okay? In some debate formats, you may also run a counter plan, but we're not going to get into that because that's a little more advanced. But just real quickly, I will try to explain what a counter plan is or does. So like, let's say the negative agrees that there's this problem in society. We agree that the Yakuza are bad. Scott gets up, says, the government needs to do something about the Yakuza, blah, blah, blah. And they're not really good arguments for why the Yakuza are good, right? Let's face it. So it would be really hard for the negative to win that debate. So they might say, yeah, you know what? We agree, the Yakuza are bad people. But we disagree with the way you are proposing that the Japanese government handle the Yakuza. We have a better idea. We have a better proposal. And then they say whatever that is, okay? And that could be a counterplan. Right? But as I said, it's a little more advanced. There are some burdens that are attached to it that the negative must win. There's, you know, if you're interested in that sort of thing, at the end of the week, Shannon and I can talk to you about that. All right? All right. So let's take a step back for a moment. I've been giving you a lot of information, a lot of new words probably too, right? And for those of you who are not taking notes, you probably should be, just because this is a lot of information. And you're going to get more information in the next session. And you're going to get lots of information tomorrow. So in order to keep it all straight, you probably ought to write some of this stuff down. But let's kind of take a step back for a moment, kind of look at what's going on here, right? We've got one side who's saying that change should happen, one side saying that change should not happen. Have you ever heard of the phrase, if it isn't broken, don't fix it? It might be a more American colloquialism. The idea, though, is why should we, university administrators don't understand this concept, why should we tinker or play with things that are generally working okay? Right? Why invest the time, the money, the energy when things are all right? I mean, could they be better? Yeah, maybe. But things are going along pretty well. You know, why mess with that? That's where that phrase comes from. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. And that's a similar concept with what we got going on here. The negative is going to say, hey, the status quo, remember what the status quo means? The current system, right? The status quo is doing all right. You know how many people have been executed by the Japanese death penalty in recent history? Not very many, right? So why mess with it? I mean, yeah, maybe a couple people, but you know, why mess with it? You know, of course, that's a harms and a significance argument, isn't it? But essentially, that's what you're asking. If it isn't broken, then why change it? This is a concept known as presumption. Presumption. So we get the word presume comes from, or is related to presumption. So we presume that the status quo is okay. It's the affirmative's job to prove that it's not. So let me ask you this. If at the end of a particular debate round, the affirmatives made some pretty good arguments, the negatives made some pretty good arguments, but you are the judge, and you say to yourself, I really don't know who wins. Maybe I should flip a coin. Right? That's not a situation we want our judges to be in, by the way, if you're debating. Okay, you want your judge to know that you're the winning team. But let's say the judge doesn't really know. The judge says, yeah, the affirmative had some good arguments, the negative had some good arguments. In fact, let me ask you this. Let's take it outside of the debate context. All right? Let's take it outside the debate context. Let's say you have some friends. Some friends say, now that exams are almost over, let's take a vacation to Fiji, where it's warm. All right? The other group of friends say, no, let's not do that. That's expensive. And after all, we will get some free time after exams are over, and we can just relax and chill here. Okay? And you're the judge. They're saying you have to make the ultimate decision. Okay, whatever you decide, the rest of your friends will go along with it. Okay? So the Fiji people, it makes a pretty strong argument. I mean, Fiji's a beautiful place, right? Who wouldn't want to spend some time in Fiji? But the other friends have a pretty good point too, and that is, it's really expensive to go to Fiji. And after they're all done talking, you say, wow, man, I'm kind of leaning towards Fiji, but I also understand that I don't have very much money, and I got to save money for next year's college and all this other stuff. And life isn't so bad right now. I get a break after exams. I can relax, watch some really bad television. Let's just keep with the status quo. Maybe we'll go to Fiji next year. Okay? The same idea applies in debate, because that's what we're doing, right? We're talking about a critical decision-making process. The judge has to come up with a decision, right? And through the process of critical thinking, which we talked about before, and through looking at the burden of proof and what the negative has to do and so forth, if at the end of the discussion, the proponents of change, or those who are arguing for change, if they have not convinced you completely, then they should lose. They have not met their burden of proof. So in debate, in this notion or this context of what we call policy debate, presumption, or that which we presume to be true, resides with the negative, resides with the current system, resides with the status quo. Because if it isn't broken, don't fix it. It's up to the affirmative to change our minds about that. And if they don't, then they fail. Make sense? All right. Okay, I only have one more thing I want to talk about, which is great.
Professor?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, the burden of proof for the affirmative is like they have certain things that they have to kind of tick off the list. But for the negative, is it only responding or attacking the affirmative, or do they have to introduce new points as well?
Yeah, great. I'm glad you asked that. So the affirmative has to, well, first of all, to answer your question specifically, yes, the negative can make new points. Okay, like let's say this is the death penalty debate, and the affirmative only talks about the morality of the death penalty, right? The death penalty is immoral. Well, you as a negative could say, well, I'm gonna talk about the morality, but I also want to argue that the death penalty is a good form of deterrence, right? It prevents future crime. That's something that the affirmative didn't discuss, but you can certainly raise that issue, right? So yes, the negative can provide new points. we'll talk a little bit more later about when they can do that. But certainly, yes, they can do that. But let me clarify something else. And that is, given that the affirmative has this burden of proof, they have to prove all of these points, right? If they don't, they fail. That means that the negative only has to win one of them, right? So let's say in the course of the debate, the negative argues all of them. But at the end of the debate, they really only win that the affirmative cannot solve. Right? Yeah, the death penalty is immoral, but there's a lot of immoral stuff in society, right? And, you know, the death penalty is a drop in the bucket, and blah, blah, blah. So maybe they win that point. Well, if the affirmative cannot solve, then there's no reason to change. Because, yes, they've identified a problem, but if they can't fix it, then, you know, we certainly shouldn't endorse it. We should probably go back to the drawing board and think of something else, right? But that proposal is going to fail because they don't solve. So the negative only has to win one of these. So in that sense, the affirmative has their work cut out for them, right? They have to win all of these. There's a metaphor, if you will. If you think about these stock issues, but you change them around a little bit, you can come up with an acronym. So, significance, harms, inherency, topicality, solvency. And so think about, but if we forget about topicality, right, for example, and we think of a chair. Can you see this? Aisha? Yeah. Okay, so if we think of the burden of proof as a chair, and the negative takes out that leg of the chair, what's going to happen to the chair? It's going to topple, right? Yeah, it's going to tip over. So the same thing is true with the affirmative proposal. If you win one of them, the case falls. Okay? Make sense? Okay, now, one thing that I want to introduce at this point, but we are certainly going to talk more about it as we continue, is what is an argument? We talked about that a little bit before, right? In terms of arguing, you know, it means quarreling, it means fighting, it means standing up for your position and so forth. We're going to introduce to you, and is this already on the Moodle?
What?
The Toolman.
Yeah. But I can put it there now.
Yeah, so on the Moodle, there will be a PowerPoint that explains this in much more detail. But there's a mathematical formula, if you will, that we're going to show you to kind of help understand what an argument is. But before I do that, I want to ask you a question. And I want somebody who hasn't spoken yet to help me out here. You haven't said anything yet, have you? Okay. Have you seen Star Wars films? No? How about Avengers? You know the Avengers?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And you know about the Power Rangers? You know,
I am.
you are a Power Ranger. Yeah, okay. All right, so I am going to say the Avengers are much better than the Power Rangers. What do you think about that? Do you think that that's a good argument?
Yes.
Why?
One more, please speak.
One more? Okay. So I think the Avengers are better. They're stronger, tougher, they're much more efficient than Power Rangers. Power Rangers are weak. That's right. That's a good idea. Why? Why do you think that's right?
What is orange?
Anybody want to help him out? You know who Power Rangers are? No? There's a big museum in Tokyo. All right. Forget that. How about this? How about this? Pizza. You know pizza, right? Pizza is better than sushi.
Oh. Yes.
Okay, you agree, right? Okay, well then let me flip it around then. Sushi's better than pizza. I think sushi is better than pizza.
So, I think pizza is better.
It's better. Okay. Are you not going to ask me why I think sushi is better than pizza?
Why?
I don't know. I hate sushi. But here's the thing. In debate, as in life, you should always ask this question. Why? And then there's another question you should always ask too, which we'll talk more a little bit later, but that is, so what? I'm serious. When you're writing a paper for class, you better be answering the why question and the so what question in your papers. When you're involved in a discussion with your friends or your family or your teachers, you better be able to answer the why question and the so what question. Okay? If you do not ask those questions and then answer them, you are probably not going to do very well. An argument is not an opinion. It is not an opinion. I think Eva Mendes is the most beautiful woman on the planet. Okay, congratulations. You might disagree, okay? That's just an opinion. Pizza better than sushi. Okay. I like pizza too, but what does that mean? Is that really an argument? No, it's not an argument. It's an opinion. It's something that I prefer. It's a preference. An opinion is something that I might believe, but I don't really have any reasons for them. It's just something that I like. I like blue and purple. I don't like yellow and orange. There's nothing wrong with yellow and orange. I just don't like them. Okay? Those are opinions. We all have opinions. We all have opinions on just about everything. Okay? But that doesn't mean that you can make a critical decision about them, because opinions lack substance. Right? Opinions lack substance. So what separates an argument from an opinion? There are three main components. There are some other components, but three main components to an argument that you will see over and over and over again in a debate. And because you're seeing them in debate, you will soon start seeing them in everyday life. A claim, which is like an opinion. Okay? I believe Japan is the best country in the world. Okay, Joe, but why? Well, Japan is the best country in the world because it is has a high quality of life, which makes it a wonderful place. What we have here is my claim, which is my opinion. Japan is the best country in the world, with what is known as data or evidence. Can be called either. Okay? Plus, what's known as a warrant, but for most of you, you'll know this as a reason. So, evidence plus reason equals our claim or our contention, right? The point I'm trying to make. When I say the Japanese government should abolish the death penalty, that is my claim. Japanese government should abolish the death penalty. But why should they abolish the death penalty, you should ask? In which case I should answer, they should abolish the death penalty because it is rarely ever used, and we should never sanction state killing. Okay? I have a reason, I have some evidence, and that supports my claim. This is why, when you think about critical thinking, and thinking about not being swindled or conned, when you think about all of the fake news that's out there, when you think about what an argument actually is, where it requires evidence and reasoning, think about how much better our society would be if people knew this. We wouldn't have people just accepting on face value that Obama's a Muslim, right? We wouldn't have people just accepting on face value that climate change isn't happening. Because those people will be put to a higher standard. If the rest of the world, if everyone understood what an argument actually is, people who make arguments would have to meet that standard. Why do you think climate change isn't happening? Where is your evidence? Where is the reason for why that climate change isn't happening from your perspective? Okay? And when you think about how multiple arguments get made in a discussion, in a conversation, if each one was raised to that standard, think about how the overall quality of those conversations would be. Think about how much easier it would be to make decisions. That's what debate can do for you. And that's what we're here to talk about in the next couple days. All right? So let's take a break. 10 minutes? What is the break schedule?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Be back promptly, please, at 20 minutes.
So, 14, 15.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Please more explanation about brain and inheritance.
Oh, blame and inherency is something or someone is at fault for the harm. So if there's a harm, like let's say there's homeless, a lot of homeless people in Japan, okay? Who is to blame for the homeless problem in Japan? Is it the government? Is it civil society? Is it the individuals who are homeless? Is it their fault? Who's really to blame? Because you can't really solve a problem until you know what the cause is, right? And so that's what this is intended to do. The affirmative needs to figure out why this problem is happening, who's at fault. Then they can address that.
So why you separate this brain and heart? So you can talk about this
Yeah.
as together.
Right. Yeah. There is certainly overlap because they're connected, right? Cause, effect, etc. That they're connected, but they're still a cause is still separate from effect, right? Even though they're connected. Think about it in medical terms. If you go to a doctor and you're coughing, right? You're sick. The doctor's going to run some tests. He's going to look at your throat and your ears and stuff. And she might say, you have a flu. You have a flu. Okay. So the harm, which are your symptoms, you're coughing, you have a headache or whatever. Those are the harms. But she is now diagnosed why those are happening. What is to blame for your coughing and your fever? You have the flu. Now that the doctor knows what the cause of your symptoms are, the doctor can now prescribe you the right kind of medication, right? Which is solvency. So if you have a bacterial infection, then they may prescribe antibiotics. But if you have a viral infection, antibiotics don't work, right? So they have to first know which one it is before they prescribe you the right kind of medication. Does that make sense? So they're connected, but they're still separate. All right, any other questions? All right, good. Enjoy your break.